Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on Twitter. You can also check me out wherever you get your podcast. Spotify, Apple, Pandora, Google, everywhere. We're there. Check us out. Lock It Down Sports. And on Twitter at Lock It Up Media on Twitter. We got a lot to get into as always. We got SEC, we've got Major League Baseball, we've got a mass exodus. I'll tell you about that. We're going to talk about Apple. And of course, the SEC leads in another category I'm going to get to in a minute. But first, let me tell you about my friends at Stream Studio. It is a multi-camera live streaming platform that allows you to go live in less than a minute. It is a video podcasting live webinar streaming platform that allows you to stream to multiple platforms at the same time. Now, like I said, the SEC leads in another category. And Georgia, in fact, leads in another category. But before I get to that, let's just do more of a big overview of the SEC. In the lead, 6 of the SEC schools in the top 15 recruiting rankings. You're like, okay, yeah, that's nothing new. You're right. That is nothing new. Of those 6, of the top SEC schools, 4 of the 5 are the top spending schools in recruiting. And that's not talking about NIL deals. That's talking about actual money being spent on recruiting. So let's go 1 through 5. Georgia, number 1, has spent $4.5 million in recruiting in this last recruiting class last year. Where'd they rank? Second. Texas A&M ranked second at $2.98 million, ranked 15th in recruiting rankings. Tennessee spent $2.92 million. They finished 9th. Texas, $2.44 million, finished 3rd in recruiting. Alabama rounds out the top 5, $2.32 million. Of course, they had the number 1 ranked recruiting class in the country. Spending's really nothing new when it comes to SEC programs and where they stand and where they fall. So let's just go back to 2019, okay? Georgia, Bama, Tennessee, Clemson, Arkansas, top 5. 4 SEC schools in the top 5. Round out, you had A&M and LSU respectively at 6 and 7. And it's not a surprise, not only are some of these schools like Georgia, like Tennessee, like Alabama, doling out big NIL deals, they're also spending the actual cash on recruiting efforts. I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but there's this thing called the Kirby Copter. What's that, Locke? Yeah, it's a helicopter where Kirby will take to get to different schools in the state of Georgia. He says there's so much to do in so little time. He wants to expedite the process. He'll helicopter in, land on these football fields. It's where the helicopter will typically land. Kirby goes in, shakes some hands, speaks to his recruits, potential recruits, his high school kids, coaches, hops on the Kirby copter and goes and lands at another high school, handful of high schools that same day. They're putting in the money. They're recruiting, and obviously their work is paying off. Back-to-back national championships. That's not nothing. Obviously, Alabama, you know what they've done. Continue to spend a lot in recruiting. Tennessee, like I said, is 3rd in spending in the SEC in the nation this year. What that produced? An 11-win season. 2019, it wasn't the recruiting effort, it was just the development effort for Tennessee. So when it comes to the SEC compared to all the other conferences, they average 1.5 million as a conference in spending. The next highest is the ACC with 1.1 million. Then the Big 10 spent over 944,000. Big 12 922,000, and rounding up the rear, the Pac-12 over 807,000. And I feel like some of that has to do, though, too, with the Pac-12 being so low. The state of California is so big, but also, too, they don't have as much money revenue-wise coming in based on their TV deals, which we'll get to a little bit later on, what they have coming in. It's a totally different animal. And they always say, why is the gap so wide between the SEC and other conferences? Big 10 right there is product on the field and revenue, but this is just another case of they're using that money that they're getting from that TV revenue. They're spending it, essentially putting it back into their program and using it to go recruit kids to go win them another national championship. And schools around the SEC and all the other conferences as well, but just specifically SEC. So Florida has increased their spending on recruiting in forms of beefing up their staff and paying their staff more. And just another example of what Georgia is doing. Georgia's had 73 personnel designated with a recruiting title in their job description. Assistant recruiting or whatever, off-field staff that deals with recruiting. 73 people involved with recruiting in some sort or fashion when it comes to Georgia. It's partly probably why they're spending $4.5 million on staff. And that leads me to my next point of I feel to me, I don't have the numbers, but a big mass exodus of college coaches leaving to go to the NFL or back to the NFL. Recent example, Todd Monken going back to the NFL. Yes, he was the NFL offensive coordinator. Came to Georgia. Won 2 national championships in 3 years. Went back to the NFL to be offensive coordinator for the Ravens. Willie Taggart, long-time college coach, head to the NFL. I feel like we're seeing that a lot more recently. And I think like maybe the two, I think, big things for me for this, one of them is, hey, I want to coach in the NFL. Maybe a younger coach. Hey, I want to get to the NFL. I want to coach in the NFL. I want to see what it is, what it's like. I think the other thing is these NFL coaches or college coaches that go to the NFL, it's less demanding. And here's what I mean by that. What I just said, schools spending $4.5 million, $2.98 million. They don't have to go recruit. They don't have to be on the road in small town Texas, in Atlanta, in Cleveland or Columbus or Tallahassee or Miami. They don't have to be in these hotbed coaching high school areas to go recruit kids. You've seen this all the time You've seen it. Bill O'Brien was at Archie Manning's high school basketball game to build that relationship with that 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old to get him to commit to your school. So hopefully then you can have him for 3 or 4 years. You put in all that work, and then shoot, half the time they go in the portal and you don't get to see the fruits of your labor. There's more downtime in the fact that you're not on the road. Yes, they're still coaching, reviewing film, looking over prospects to potentially be drafted, free agent possibilities, other teams, schemes, all that. But they're doing the exact same thing in college, but you add the recruiting aspect to it. It's a more comfortable life, I believe. And I feel like a lot of NFL coaches, they don't go to college. Or a lot of them want to stay in the NFL. And I feel like that's a big reason for it. I really do. And I mean, I don't have the numbers, I don't know the trends, but I feel like that's been a common theme you've seen here recently. Now, speaking of recent, we're going to have some recent changes in Major League Baseball. Of course, they're figuring out the pitch clock now. You're seeing it in spring training. I think that'll get straightened out. Bigger bases, which the hope is to increase more action on the base pass, more steals, more runs, more exciting offense. Kind of reminds me of the NFL being soft on quarterbacks to create more offense in the game. The pickoffs, that's the only one that's really not a big factor to me, I don't think, in spring training. But when it comes to game time, our regular season games, that's going to matter. And the other thing is, how's the balanced schedule going to affect teams and pennant races now? Now, is it going to affect more top-heavy divisions, or is it going to affect more even out, balanced, per se, divisions? I think it's going to help more the balanced out divisions instead of the top-heavy divisions. So let's just say, for example, the NL East. You got 3 good teams or 2 good teams and a solid team. The Braves, for example, last year were 14-5 against the Nats, 13-6 versus the Marlins. Philly was 16-3 against the Fish. That right there, beat up on a bad team 19 times. Can't do math. And that will get you in a playoff spot if you're successful. Now, you're going to be more spread out, and you don't get to make up as many games in that division, in your division as well. I think it hurts a good division like that. I think it really hurts. It helps an AL East team. You got 4 good teams, or say at least 3 good teams in Tampa, Toronto, and the Yankees. Boston's still wait to be seen, but same exact example right there. You don't have to play the dreaded East 18 times with those teams. It's divided up more. You're not going to beat each other up. Also, though, too, I think it can put more importance on taking 2 out of 3 from a lesser team out of your division. You have to go take 2 out of 3 from a Pirates team. That's going to be bad. Or an A's team when you play out of your division. And that's all over. And I do like that Major League Baseball has decided to do this. And I've heard there's been some bashing or some concerns that think it like discredits now the All-Star game because part of the All-Star game allure and buildup was you didn't get to see the National League or the American League. And it might be the first time you get to see a Shohei Ohtani or Mike Trout or an Aaron Judge. But now you're going to get to see him at least 3 times a year, which is great. I really do like that part. And know what? In the All-Star game, you still might get to see him because, say, player X is on the the IL now when your team goes and plays that opponent. So you still could be able to see them. It just gives you an opportunity to see these guys in person, which you may never get to see, which I think is a incredibly smart, great decision that Major League Baseball is going to do. Now, let me tell my friends at Stream Studio. It's a multi-camera live streaming platform that allows you to go live in less than 1 minute. It is a video podcasting live webinar streaming platform that allows you to stream multiple platforms at the same time. Always, you can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media as well. That's Lock It Up Media on Twitter. Of course, you can find me wherever you get your podcast: Apple, Google, Spotify, Pandora. We're there. Type in Lock It Down Sports. You'll be able to easily find me and it'll pull right up. Now, Fox is making a huge gamble, if you ask me, and that is Fox Sports, I mean. So, as you know by now, obviously, Tom Brady is going to be joining the broadcast booth in 2024, which is unfortunate because I've really enjoyed listening to Greg Olsen paired with Kevin Burkhardt. Olsen would now be slided to the number 2 spot with Joe Davis. And let me get this out of the way first and foremost. I mean, whoever the broadcasters are, it's not going to affect me watching a game. That doesn't matter. That's not going to affect me. If it's a team or a game I want to watch, I'm going to watch it regardless. But Olsen has been spectacular. If you already know this, aware how good Olsen is, let's bring the perfect example of the Super Bowl where he showcased it. For example, when on one of Kansas City's touchdowns, he without pause talked about a rule about a player going from eligible to ineligible on back-to-back plays when they line up. Did I know that? Absolutely not. He routed that off without even thinking about it. I know football. No, I don't know every rule, case in point, but I know football. I understand it. I learned something in the Super Bowl. That wasn't a generic, basic thing. He rolled that off the tongue like he knew it all along, and clearly he did. He didn't have to wait a few plays. Oh, wait, on that play a few seconds ago before the touchdown, blah, blah, blah. No. He spit it out, perfectly timed, executed it, and got back to Kevin Burkhardt to call the play. Could Brady roll that off his tongue that quick? Absolutely. No doubt about it. But Brady has not done play-by-play as a color guy at all. Greg Olsen even had to wait his turn and earn his reps. Very risky, like I said, because you don't know what you're getting with Tom Brady. Yes, you're getting the name of Tom Brady, but it could very well turn into what you had with future Hall of Famers and Jason Witten, who is dreadful, and Drew Brees as a color man who was not very insightful, wasn't very good. Obviously, they hope it hits like Tony Romo was before his big contract. I know there's been a lot of criticism with Romo now. All he does is yell, get excited, doesn't say much, doesn't provide much now. I've never really had a problem with Romo. I thought he's been fine. Probably a little bit better before his big contract, but like I said, I thought he's been fine, and I haven't had any criticism with that. If he turned into a Jason Witten or Drew Brees, that's a big problem for Fox. You have a well-known, good commodity who does a good job in Greg Olsen, and now because of your big investment on Tom Brady, you're stuck. What did Greg Olsen do? He's probably going to leave because he's also losing a huge paycheck potential. So interesting enough, with his contract, Greg Olsen makes $10 million as the number one color man. That'll drop down to $3 million as the number two man. Yeah, $3 million. I think I could live on it too. But when you've been that good, that successful, a huge drop. And he also has an opt-out in his contract, but there's really no openings. So he might be just slide as the number two person. It'll be interesting to see what Brady can bring, because he's going to be there, and I don't see them going to a three-man booth at all. I don't know if there's room. I don't feel like there is room. ESPN tried that, and it didn't sound good. There wasn't enough to get two color guys in, and a play-by-play guy. So it's going to be a gamble. We're going to obviously see how it turns out, but it's really unfortunate for us as viewers if we don't get the same type of results that we hope for, that we expect now that Greg Olsen's raised the bar. Something to watch. Obviously, we get another year of Olsen. We'll have to see what happens in 2024. Now, I don't know if you saw this, but Pac-12 is still without a TV deal, out of a agreement. So who could swoop in and be their opponent, or their opponents, their TV partners? Well, that's Apple. And depending on the deal and the money, I think this could be a good thing or a bad thing for the Pac-12. And here's kind of why I think it is. I think it's bad because even less people are going to currently be able to see your games. You don't get a lot of viewership anyway based on the times it comes out. Your games come on. I mean, yes, you get the moniker of Pac-12 after dark. That's just the key. After dark. Games come on at 9, 10, 11 o'clock. And if you've watched 2-3 games, you're done with the Pac-12. You're done watching college football. Or you watch your one game and I don't care about Washington State and Oregon State at 9:30. I don't care about them. So with it being not in the public eye, less in the public eye, with it being on Apple, I think it could hurt their marketing and its revenue to its fans. If I can't watch my school, why am I going to go buy their hats, their shirts, their other revenue streams? It would be tough because that would just be one more thing you have to go buy with your if you have Amazon with your YouTube or your Hulu or whatever streaming service you have, it would just be another thing you have to go buy. I think another thing, a potential reason it could be bad, is that you could lose your school. And when I mean school, your main driving money making school in Oregon, because obviously Southern Cal and UCLA, they're gone. Right in the going to the Pac Big Ten. If you lose Oregon, you could be in trouble. That's the eyeballs for the Pac-12. What draws them in? So those are some of the bad reasons. I think a few of the good reasons. First conference on a streaming platform. I think that could be big. That's an important thing to be a first on a streaming platform, which therefore could lead to long-term success. You've locked up a partnership with Apple, and there's always going to be a place for you, the Pac 12, and you're going to have primetime games there. Absolutely primetime games. I think one of the other few good possibilities could be a huge money deal to help you potentially close the revenue gap between the SEC and the Big Ten. I don't think it would be a big revenue deal because there's not a lot of competition right now and networks fighting to get you on their network. So that could be an issue where I don't think it's a huge money deal, but if it is, you take that. But if I'm Apple, like I said, Apple has leverage. I think the bright thing though with Apple, they've shown that they're into the sports broadcasting arena with Major League Baseball on Friday nights now. Just signed the MLS to a 10-year, $2.5 billion deal. So they've got that infrastructure and the production to set that all up because they've done it. They're already doing that now. I think here's the other thing, too. I think if the Pac-12 signs with Apple, they give them all their best games, etc. Because you almost make it exclusive if they get that big money deal. Then you give them a lot of their all of their deals. I think to sweeten the pot, though, Apple should create an all-exclusive Pac-12 channel to provide them other things to view on the conference for the viewer. For the viewer, do an all access, do a Hard Knocks type show that the NFL does for the fans. It would bring a Pac-12 fan of a team more of a draw to, you know what? I am going to go subscribe to the Pac-12, to Apple, so I can go see them behind the scenes of their spring game preparation, their this game preparation. And of course, you get other content too, behind the scenes basketball or throw gymnastics in or more human interest behind the scenes type stories where you can really get invested in them. Now, Ion may be interested in the deal or a package for the Pac-12 as well. Nothing's finalized, nothing's formal, but they sparked up an interest, and that's something they've never gotten into sports. I don't know how the ratings would be on there with them running. I think Blue Blood. I think they were on Blue Blood. I have to go back and double check that, but that sort of thing. I don't know. I would feel more comfortable with them if I'm Pac-12 man on Apple. Although Ion would be easier to see could it be on, regular broadcast? So they're interested. Obviously, nothing's finalized in the least bit, but boy, that's going to be something to watch and something to see. It'll be something, and that just shows you the interest right now in the Pac-12. If no one's jumping after them for them to be on their networks, or they will for a reduced price. And with how far the Pac-12's fallen as far as revenue, it'd be tough for them. One more thing. Speaking of money, it pays to be nice. Yes, outside of your conscience, of course, but in lucrative cash, I mean. So this was maybe a few weeks ago now. A Florida man was waiting in line to get a scratch off ticket. Someone cut him in line and he didn't say anything. He was kind of ticked off, but he goes, you know what, whatever. Well, he buys a scratch off ticket, won $1 million. He received $820,000 of that $1 million scratch off. And you know what? Good for him. Interesting enough, I didn't know this because I'm not really a gambler or do scratch offs. And maybe this is very common knowledge, but the store gets a $2,000 commission for selling the tickets. Maybe that's normal. I don't know. But that was interesting and news to me that the store gets a commission for selling that ticket. So they always say it pays to be nice. Well, in this case, it pays to be nice. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on Twitter. Talk to you next week. You've been listening to Lock It Down Sports.